And right now I've got with me John Campbell. Now many people would be familiar with Campbell's news agency. They've been around in Toowoomba forever and ever. And John, you've got a really significant and pretty well-established lead back into what happened on the railway here and newspapers that came from Brisbane. Can you tell us that story, John?
Yeah, well, that's correct. My grandfather, Albert Hammond, he owned a news agency just across the road here at the very end of Station Street. Also incorporated a skating rink in that business.
Oh, wow.
He had a stall on the railway here for many years, and his wife, Emily, was here in, I think it was around 1924, selling papers. She was expecting their second child, and she collapsed at the newspaper on the platform and died.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Which was a great shock.
Great tragedy.
Yeah.
John, the newspapers were coming up from Brisbane at this time?
Yeah, well, my grandfather had the rights to the Courier Mail for all of Toowoomba in those days. He would board the train, I'm pretty sure it was at Helidon, and he would hand wrap the papers coming up the range, because it took, I think, close to an hour to come from Helidon to Toowoomba.
Yep.
He would hand wrap those papers, and when he got to Toowoomba station, there would be a series of people here with horses and carts and drays and what have you, and they would deliver his papers for him. And I believe he paid those guys with tins of tobacco to do those jobs.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. People don't realise that Toowoomba is a rail hub. And this is just one little part of it. All of those newspapers, all the Courier Mail coming out of Bowen Hills, coming up on the train from Brisbane, and then being distributed right here, right from the railway station.
Well, that's right. I believe during the war years, he would sell you a Courier Mail for twopence, and you could bring that paper back later in the day and he'd buy it back for a penny. And he would then on-sell that paper to the troops that came through in the troop trains.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were very, very hungry for any sort of news.
Any news,
yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. And John, was there a concession here on the station selling papers as well?
Yeah, he had a stall.
Yep.
I think it was located somewhere on the platform.
Yep.
That actually sold papers.
John, I remember the newspapers, the Courier Mail, being sold out of little red, they were like cages, and you put your money in and you opened up the front of it, and that's how you got your Courier Mail. Yeah,
well, they were termed honour boxes.
Yep.
In the early days, they didn't have a door. You dropped your money in and you took a paper.
Yeah.
But there were all those people who dropped their money in and took 2 or 3, or they'd drop no money in and take a paper.
Take 2 or 3.
Or take the lot, or they'd break into the box and take the money and the papers or whatever.
And John, with the papers here in Toowoomba coming through, were you meeting trains? Were you meeting the westbound trains to sell papers to those people coming through? Well,
he would have. His business would have been around arrivals and departures of trains.
Yes, yeah, and he would have known that timetable.
He would have known it backwards. Yeah, yeah. I can recall coming here to collect papers for my dad's business, and of course you just couldn't walk onto the platform. You had to pay.
Yes,
you had to buy a ticket to get onto the platform.
Yeah, yeah.
And also going to the goods shed to pick up papers and magazines that come from far and wide.
And you know, isn't that one of the sounds of the city? And I don't think young people these days would appreciate, you know, the paper sellers on street corners and, you know, paper telly, city final.
Well, that's right. Yeah, guys standing on traffic islands selling papers to people in cars.
Yep.
You know, I tell the story of my grandfather in Sydney. He had a semaphore. He could signal ships at sea from his house. And my dad went to war on the Queen Mary. And, he went on the Queen Elizabeth. And as they sailed down the coast, my grandfather sent a signal to the commander of the ship. And my father was summoned to the bridge, and there was a message there from his dad welcoming him, wishing him well in war.
In war, yeah.
You tell young people these days, and they hold up their phone and say, why didn't he use his phone?
His phone, yeah. Yep.
It's just crazy.
John, it's been great chatting with you this afternoon and reminiscing over those stories of how the newspapers, the Courier Mail, coming up from the printery in Brisbane at Bowen Hills, up on the train, getting folded as it went up the hill towards Toowoomba and then being distributed to all points. Thanks very much for joining us here today on Power FM.
No trouble.